the 22nd of July 2026. You're welcome to this morning's edition of AM120. I am Oluwafunbi Bello saying welcome. You know, we take you through the daily's weather reports and then we head straight to our interview segment. And this morning I will be starting with the Nigerian Tribune. On the front page, we have a story on page 9. It says PFIPC scandal. Onsa SGF disowned Adeyemi during 2025 inquiry, and that's coming from the Foreign Affairs Ministry. The rider says reps to meet Minister of Justice, Accountant General today. CBN retained interest rate at 26.5%. That story is on page 6. And on page 13, outcry over expensive graduation fees. Third fund, NEL fund, UBEC, others under searchlight as Senate extends Safe School Initiative probe. That story is on page 3. Moving on to more stories on page 6. Nigeria's gypsum powder market to hit $30.5 million in 2026, $37 million by 2035, and that's according to a report. Moving on to more stories from Edo and Kaduna. Niger, 14 others at flood risk before July 27. And that's a warning from the federal government. That story is on page 4. Troops rescue 27 kidnapped victims foil abduction in Sokoto. And that story is on page 27. And still on the same page, tension heightened in Anambra as suspected gunmen kill 4 herders of same parents. Fresh crisis rocks Ondo Assembly over alleged 44 million naira Osopadek fund. Speaker denies allegations, demands evidence. And that story is on page 21. And on page 22, Africa now world's hunger epicenter with 309 million hungry people. And that's according to World Bank Food Security Report. And lastly, on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, we have a story on page 3. Eating more beans, soy/high blood pressure risk by nearly 30%. And that's according to a study, and that story is on page 3. And that's all we have on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. And taking some inside stories. On page 4, Atiku to Tinubu, don't drag God into your budget rackets. Federal government to return 13 oil blocks to bid baskets, enforces drill or drop policy. And that's on business and economy. Still on business and economy, NNPCL supplied 3 cargoes out of 14 under Naira for crude deal. And that's coming from Dangote Refinery. All stories on page 5. And on page 9, Onsa SGF disowned Adeyemi during 2025 inquiry. And that's coming from the Foreign Affairs Ministry. More stories on the back page on page 28. Ondo Government, African Cleanup Initiative partner on environmental sustainability. Stakeholders have on digital literacy as basic tool for education growth. Story on page 28. And on the back page where we have some sports stories. Amokachi, silver rally support for youth mental health. Yamal's Spain could surpass 2010 generation, and that's coming from Olise. WAFCON, Falcons camp bubbles with 22 players. Infantino must step down, says La Liga boss. And lastly, on the back page, Olise abandoned our baby, says Players X. And that's all we have on the Nigerian Tribune this morning. I'll be right back. Please stay with us.
Super multi-vitamin activities. Unbridled Multivitamin Active Teens. Shine on.
This award goes to the most punctual student of the entire school. And the winner is Lisa Solomon.
Something is telling me that she makes her daughter skip breakfast just to be here. You people could have just asked. I would have been happy to tell you my secret.
Enjoy instant goodness with John Vent's 3-in-1 chocolate. The quickest start to your morning.
When malaria knocks you down, you can be sure parasites are having a party in your system.
Welcome to our new kingdom, guys.
Comel, an effective weapon against malaria. Attacking the parasite army directly to give you express relief and get you back on your feet effectively. Comel on. Malaria gone.
All right, thank you for staying with us. Still on the newspaper review, I have the Vanguard here with me. On the front page, we have a story on page 5. It says, reps to answer, explain why you ignored alerts on PFIPC. And the rider says, demand answers on security lapses, issue final notice to concerned MDAs to appear. We rejected PFIPC's request for collaboration, and that's coming from the federal ministry. And of course, we expect more to unfold in days to come. Moving on to more stories on page 20, CBN retains interest rate at 26.5%, cites Middle East tensions. 31 firms emerge winners in 2025 licensing round. Federal government targets additional 300,000 BPD output with 2026 bid round. And on page 9, ECOWAS reaffirms plans to roll out ECO single currency in 2027. Moving on to page 8, Nigeria can scale $1 trillion economy on shaky terrain of weak governance. And that's coming from the Vice President. Xenophobia reps seek compensation as South African economy suffers. That story is on page 11. PANDEF calls for minimum 60% of total oil blocks marginal fields for Niger Deltans. And that story is on page 12. Insecurity. Tinubu approves new army battalion for Kwara. And that story is on page 27. More stories on page 8. 17 states to experience flooding for 6 days beginning July 21. And that's coming from NISA. That's actually a warning. So that story is on page 8. You need to take that up to read in case your states might be affected. You take precautionary measures. On page 9, Senate extends probe of Safe School initiative to TED Fund, NEL Fund, UBEC, others. And that's all we have on the front page of Vanguard newspaper. Moving on to the inside stories. On page 6, boat mishap claims more than 20 Nigerians in Cameroonian territorial waters. EFCC clears immigration CG NANDAP of visa fraud probe. Fresh attack on Plateau community leaves 2 dead. Fake doctor nabbed in Calabar, over 500,000 naira UCTH job scam. And on page 7, NSCDC uncovers alleged fake university in Badagry, rescues 106. That's a very good development coming from NSCDC. Moving on to page 8, Nigeria can scale $1 trillion economy on shaky terrain of weak governance. That's according to the Vice President. Atiku's lobbyists submit records on Tinubu's U.S. for feature case to Trump Congress. ECOWAS reaffirms plan to roll out ECO single currency in 2027. Senate passes bill to rename NICOM as Insurance Regulatory Commission. All stories on page 9. And on the back page where we have sports stories, 2030 World Cup, Okpara urges Super Eagles to prepare against shocks. Osimas, a world-class centre forward, declares former Gala star. Zidane signs contract to lead France till 2030. And lastly, FIFA probe Argentina to no fate, August. And that's all we have on the Vanguard newspaper. We'll be right back after taking the weather report and, of course, commercial break. Please stay with us. All right, thank you very much for staying with us. This morning, we will be talking about Ipman's warning on rising petrol importation and higher prices. And to do justice to this topic this morning, we have an economist in the studio with us, Dr. Adekunle Onile. Doctor, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Before we go into the nitty-gritty of this conversation this morning, it's to note that the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, recently warned that the federal government approval of additional petrol import licenses could lead to higher pump prices, increased pressure on the naira, and greater instability in the downstream petroleum sector. According to IPMAN, imported premium motor spirit, PMS, currently has a landing cost estimated to be about 20% higher than fuel supplied by local refineries, particularly the Dangote refinery. The association argues that allowing more expensive imported fuel into the market defeats the objective of reducing prices through competition. Doctor, looking at the warning by IPMAN and of course the concern, they've warned that the rising petrol importation could lead to higher pump prices. Now, why will the importing more petrol increase prices at a point where we should actually be talking about reduction in the price of fuel?
Well, good morning. You see, the economic dynamics of demand and supply is what we are talking about here. And since we've passed the era of fuel subsidy, and we are now going with market-dictated trend, a lot of things will determine the price. It's not about establishing local refineries alone. That will determine the price. A lot of things goes into that. And that is what this call by IPMAN is not addressing fully. Well, it is patriotic, their call, you understand. But at the same time, it is not holistic. And that is where we should focus our attention on.
What do you mean by it is not holistic? Are you saying it is not justified, especially when we look at the economic aspect?
It is justified in the sense that it is not yet Uru. We have not yet reached where we are going. We are on the path to it. And like I've always mentioned, Nigeria is on the path to progress, whether people see it now or accept it or not. Even the world bodies of experts restated that recently, not even from Nigerians themselves. Those who are outside watching our economy grow.
Do you think our economy is growing?
Yes, it is.
How so? Because it feels like a lot of us are not, or a lot of Nigerians are not really feeling the growth we are talking about.
It took America almost 200 years to become what they are. China for many, even for centuries, was poverty-ridden. Today, China is the best of the manufacturing countries. Now, where I'm going is this. They went through a lot of things. They went through killings, mass murdering, and so many things. If people remember the Tiananmen Square, where the citizens were protesting against government. So what Nigeria is going through is part of growth.
All right, Doctor, we have a commercial break, and when we return, we'll continue the conversation on our economy. Please stay with us.
Excuse me, this your 100%
Babes, are you sure you want to spend this much on hair? Since your landlord just increased rent.
I saved for this one separately on money points.
Man, you say you save on money points?
Yes.
This madam money points here, the array of your dryer there is target savings money points I used to have it. The rest of this my sub is this savings money points I used to do it. The salary of this my staff is save as you transact, son.
Jennifer, money points save as you transact. Money points fixed savings and money point target savings.
What's up? Why did I tell you don't contribute to you? Why should I? Come on, oh, you go give your money to Adaku to save. You see money points accounts there. You don't go open a savings account. Now Adaku you shoot. I beg everybody inside this my saloon. Oh, yeah, bring out your phone and download the money points app now. Even you. What are you waiting for? Download the Money Points app now. Adaku, wow, Money Points account.
Money Point, made for your progress.
All right, thank you very much for staying with us. We're still talking about Ipman's warning on rising petrol importation and higher prices. Doctor, before we went on that break, we were talking about Nigeria economic presently, how so many international bodies are giving kudos to Nigeria, despite the fact that Nigerians themselves do not see the growth, cannot feel the growth. Why is this so?
You see, growth is like this. It is not sudden. It's a gradual process. In fact, if you are a farmer and you plant a crop, if you go there every day, you won't immediately notice the growth. But if you go over a period of time, you'll be surprised that, this that I planted yesterday is so tall. But if it's every day that you are seeing it, you hardly notice. You even be patient. So where I'm going is this. Nigeria presently has 9 refineries, 9 solid ones. And the biggest one in the world, according to latest statistics, in the world. The biggest one in the world. Now, the question is, presently, are these the refineries meeting our expectations?
Are they even working?
They are working, but not optimally, due to a lot of factors. So that's why when people talk or condemn or analyze or criticize, it should not be absolute. It should be relative to certain considerations. You understand? So it's not the larger or the biggest number or the larger number of refineries that we have that determines that we have Dangote and the rest of them, the price should come down. It doesn't work that way. And remember, like I said, we are now operating in an era of market-driven economy, which means that even if you have 100 refineries in Nigeria, as long as they buy their crude, which is their raw materials, at world market prices, or a little lower, you understand? That is what we will get.
Doctor, but when we are talking about this number of refineries we have in Nigeria, we have the resources to make it work. At some point, we were told that the refineries were going to be brought back to life, and eventually we really did not see much from that particular aspect, from that particular sector. Where, if we have these many refineries that we can actually make work, why are we still talking about importing fuel today in Nigeria?
Let me tell you this. The private refineries are even more than the... People only focus on the government refineries. All these Kaduna, Warri, and Port Harcourt. No. Nigeria has moved beyond that. Yeah. Nigeria has moved beyond that. And this is where the government itself needs to educate the citizens very, very well. Because, you see, even when you are making progress and you are doing things and there are too many negative criticisms, it dampens morals. It drives away investors. It gives Nigeria a bad image. So, unwittingly, we are doing ourselves, thinking we are doing the country or we are doing the government. People should be very objective and focused in their criticism. The Ipman criticism presently, I won't call it criticism, maybe observation, is even self-centered. It's even self-centered.
Why is it self-centered?
Good. In the era of subsidies, Ipman was the Lord. The thought Nigeria has forgotten the oil. This is the unfortunate thing. They contributed largely to the then subsidy scam and the problems of petroleum supply in Nigeria. Most of them became overnight billionaires. Yes.
So are you saying this warning should be discarded?
Not discarded. Taken with a pinch of salt.
Despite the fact that we are seeing, a gradual increase in the prices of fuel right now.
There is no gradual increase. There is just a slight up and down.
Then at what point are we expecting it to come down?
You see?
Or return back to what we are used to?
You see, there is no possibility of you coming down to what we are used to. People should forget that dream. There is nothing like that. If anybody expected an era of 600, 500, or even 150, that one is long done. Because the reason is this. Apart from petroleum, a lot of things too have actually changed. The price index have changed. The standard of living has changed. The average disposable income has changed. You understand? In those days when petrol was 60, 65, the disposable income that is not the same thing as now. So people should not just always relate to past glories or past dreams. It doesn't work like that. In those other foreign countries where you see there is stability, do you know what? If you check the trend of their exchange rates, it has always been $1 to maybe 1 point something pounds. And they have maintained this consistently for almost 50 years. Yes. Whereas Nigeria from $1 to almost 1,000 plus now, or 2,000. So now, what are we talking about? So the price will change relative to that too. These are the issues.
But talking of the exchange rate you mentioned, I think that's one of the concerns Ipman is raising, that
Yes.
if we continue to allow them to import fuel into the country, it also messes up with our exchange rates.
I'll tell you
It
this.
increases it.
I will tell you this. When I say Ipman is being a little bit self-centered, I know what they are trying to do. But let me tell you this specifically. Without the importation, possibly we'll be having another fuel crisis now and queues. Yeah. Because Dangote supply is not meeting up to demand. And remember, demand is not a Father Christmas.
But is this not a point where we need to start looking at the government-owned refineries also? Private refineries might not be able to supply as much as we need in Nigeria. Looking at our population,
They can.
Why are we not holding the government?
They can supply even more than enough. That is not the problem.
So what is the problem?
The problem is that, like I said, refinery business in Nigeria is still in the starting stage, whether people like it or not. Dangote started many years ago now. So you can't expect, there have been a lot of teething problems which is what Dangote is going through now. At the beginning, it was even terrible. People thought it would be a failed project. When even, it can't even start producing. You understand? As long as the environment that Dangote is operating is still Nigeria, with a lot of attendant issues, that issue will translate also to Dangote's productivity. You understand? The crude supply is one. As long as there are problems with crude supply, no matter how efficient and how patriotic Dangote wants to be, it will affect. There is this issue that is even fundamental. First and foremost, Dangote is a businessman out to make profit. It might not be a Shylock businessman, but what I'm saying is that you can't expect, as it happened to the government refineries, and because they wanted to be Father Christmas to everybody, the whole thing went down. He won't allow his own refinery to go moribund because he's trying to satisfy Nigerians. People should always understand that there is no free manna, no free lunch anywhere. We have to work for it. All of us have to put hands on deck. You understand what I'm trying to say? Now, this Ipman call now, the other time I said, well, from one side, it might look like it's patriotic. The Ipman themselves are part of the problem. They are part of the supply chain. You understand? We've had situations where immediately there's a little news from the international market. The Ipman people themselves will rush to go and increase prices. They didn't mention that one as part of their own contributions. You understand now? All they were after is that these people bringing in petroleum are affecting our business, our local business as Ipman. Because now, most of them who have depot now, local depot now, they discovered that the imported ones are driving them out of contention.
But doctor, in the actual sense, should we really still be talking about importation of fuel in Nigeria today?
As long as we are not meeting supply and we don't want a crisis, no good government, I repeat, no good economic team will say there won't be importation.
But if our refineries have not gone moribund, I'm talking of the government refineries now, let's assume they are all working, including the private ones we have, can this not stop the importation of fuel in Nigeria?
It can.
Why are we not looking into that direction? Because we're also spending enough money. Now, looking at the exchange rate also, it is affecting our economy. And if it persists for long, of course, the warnings of Ipman might not entirely be discarded. Let's look at it holistically, like you said. Is it not going to crumble our economy more than what we are seeing right now? Even though you're saying that our economy is improving. Yes. But I'm talking of the standard of living of Nigerians now. Is it not going to affect it more?
The slight increase in petroleum prices would not increase or crumple Nigerian economy. I said it in capital, would not.
But what about the standard of living of Nigerians?
The standard of living of Nigerians cannot be magical.
Don't forget, Doctor, there was a point, let's date it back to 2023, May 2023, when the president announced that the subsidy was gone, was removed. Yes. Some people could not even go out with their vehicles. Yes. Some people could not even, it was at that point, I think, remote work was largely introduced in a lot of organizations in Nigeria. Hybrid kind of work, where you work 3 times virtually and you appear twice. Are we seeing a return of that era in Nigeria?
Do you know that's an advantage to what is happening?
What's the advantage?
Good. A lot of people don't realize that once you have a disequilibrium in an economy, the only way the thing can self-regulate is to go back to the fundamentals. And that is, you cut waste, you make people to become more productive, and you become more focused. Now, an increase in petroleum price might be seen as a punishment. There are advantages to that too. What are the advantages? It reduces waste and unnecessary expenditure and journeys by people. Whether you like it or not, Nigerians, I'm just coming, Nigerians are used to a pattern that even if you are going to buy bread, you go with your car. The more developed countries don't even do that. You have more money. These are things people have forgotten, that our lifestyle itself, that we are saying standard of living is low. It's terrible, it's extravagant, in fact, it's unheard of.
So you think we are living beyond our means?
Yes. Still go out now, despite all the hues and cries. Every weekend, go and see parties and spendings. Yes, it's not only limited to even the rich, the poor. It has become part of our culture to be wasteful and excessive. That is it. Abroad, if you want to do a wedding, maybe a group of about 5, 10 close. That's all. Here, the whole town will be invited. We'll be fed. And a moment after, the same person will be crying, this Nigeria, oh. You know, what is wrong with us? Now, during the era of first subsidy, look at the high rate of pollution. Look at the high numbers of cars on the road. Now, go out. There is obscenity now. Yes! To heavy disadvantage, that's an advantage. There's some sanity now. People don't go out now unnecessarily. They've not realized to be a waste if you don't have something productive that you are going to do. To start just roaming around town because you have car and you have fuel. You understand? If you go out now, you see the way most of the streets will be deserted. That is an indication of a serious economy. That is a redirection that people don't want to see because it is to them a punishment. You understand? But it's a reorientation of our attitude and our economic style, which is very necessary condition for growth. We can't continue the pattern we have been using before. We said it is not bringing any result. Now you still want us to continue and say that is how it should be. That is what we should return to. What are you people talking about? You can't grow with the same pattern. If that pattern is okay and it's good, we won't have problems that we are having now. It will continue to be good like that. But it can't continue because we are living on borrowed times. All those while. You understand now? These are the issues that an ordinary person will not see. Or people who want to, or politicians want to capitalize on to score cheap popularity. And it's not helping the nation. You understand? Now, let me tell you this. Where is Dangote not meeting our needs, if it is about the largest, despite the local threatening problems that we are talking about, Dangote exports a lot of crude. It has obligations. It has money, loans that it has to pay back. It has stuff that it has to pay. So all these things are not free. The mere fact that it is a Nigerian refinery does not translate that to the fact that now you should start sharing petrol to everybody. These are some of the things. And above all, it now lets people focus on green alternative, green energy. People like me, I drive my electric bike more now than I drive my cars.
Oh, you have an electric bike?
Yes. Go around town now, you see more solar panels and less wastage on carrying ladder and whatever about just to get electric supplies. There are some of the things people don't realize, that it's a transformation. You understand? The stress of pulling and going to look for generator repairers, and all of a sudden you are watching your important movie and the light just went out and you start saying, hold up, down NEPA. You know this stuff.
I mean, but I will say, or we will say, it's a forceful transformation.
Yes.
Because when we talk about electricity, I really do not want us to divert. But when we talk about electricity and economy, of course, the way of life of people, especially those who are in business, who rely solely on electricity, they've been forced over time to provide their own electricity, like the solar you're talking about. But beyond that, when we look at the prices also, which a lot of business owners are also feeling, and this will also bring me back to the issue of economy we are talking about. In an economy where we say we are thriving, we are doing well, giving kudos to the government and improving economy, we see our GDP, a rise, a slight increase in it, but the people are not feeling it. How do we make sure, or the increase in the economy, the improvement in the economy we are talking about, how do we make sure it translates to the suffering of Nigerians? Or how should Nigerians also see this as being, how do they expect to feel it? Maybe we should just
I'll tell you
it that
this,
way.
It takes patience.
How long?
I'm coming, and resilience. And what is the resilience? The resilience is that the masses are part of the growth process. What I mean is that when government is doing its own part, the masses must follow the paths, not against it. How? If government is established some enabling environment to redirect the nature of the economy of Nigeria, the masses themselves should not truncate it. Yes, no shortcuts, no unnecessary distractions, not criticisms. Criticism is welcome. It allows people to be focused and not to lose track. But there's a difference between criticism and distractions. Some criticism are largely distractions. Yes, and if you don't have a very strong will leader, that person will easily be discouraged and will go back to square one. But we won't notice. He will just do what will make him or her popular. You understand? Just to satisfy the masses. But again, we will pay for it. You understand? We are just postponing the evil days. Now, you might ask me, what is the essence of living then? If it is to come and sacrifice every time. Well, I'll tell you this. Life is like that. Some people will have to suffer, so some people can live better.
Still on living better, or the economy of the people, of course, and how the people are feeling this. Let's look at the impact of this on the rising cost on transportation, food inflation, and of course, small business owners in particular. What do you think the implication will be?
You see, petroleum is a cost pool inflation index, because any slight increase in the price of petroleum will translate to higher transportation costs, higher prices of food, and so many other things that depends on petroleum and its product usage. Remember that even factories will have to adjust. These have been the trend. But presently, it is uncalled for. The Christ. Because the margin of increase presently, I didn't say over time. There's a difference between over time and presently does not warrant the Christ. It's not a massive increase. You understand? Because it is the Christ that is now driving saboteurs, profiters to capitalize. Didn't you know that they have increased price of petroleum? They will now change their own price 10 times. You understand what I'm trying to say? That is typical Nigerian behavior. Any small thing, if the price drops, they will reduce their own product. What do you want government to do about that?
Is there no at the point where we should start talking about regulation?
Yes, that is good. I've always canvassed that too. That since we have a population that is self-centered, then it is time you have to force people to be patriotic. That should have been, but you see what many people usually say is that we are a democracy, that people, and a market-driven economy, that people should be allowed, they shouldn't be gauged. You understand? And this is exactly what drove us to this.
But that should not talk about regulation, because if there is an increase and eventually the increment was taken out, should transportation costs not go back to what it used to be? Just like you said, we do not see that happen in Nigeria so many times, a lot of times. Now, what should the government do to make sure we enforce regulation? We make sure that it does not affect an average Nigerian sometimes might not even be able to afford.
This is why I give kudos to the foresight of the present governor of Oyo State. When they established Oyo State Law Enforcement Agency, it is to buttress what I'm saying, that a lot of Nigerians are lawless. But we are good critics of others. But we ourselves, very lawless. You understand? There are so many things we don't want to work. Yet, we complain it is not working. We ourselves are contributing to not making it work. We forgot that the hands built and hands in together. Not by one person, not their leader. If one the leader is striving and is trying, and the other workers refuses to contribute, that will be an until. You understand now? So what I'm saying here is that the germane thing for us to do is to redirect our effort. And government has a role to play that in terms of law enforcement, not like you say, and regulation. But it has to be within the ambit of the law. That's the unfortunate thing. It is easier during the days of the military to put a price control decree, and then if you do it now, some people will go to court and say you are stamping on their fundamental rights to trade as they wish. Yes. That they are not forcing anybody to come and buy, they are not breaking any law. That they are free to sell at any price that they wish. Yes. And the judiciary will rule in their favor.
Yes,
not because
might have
judiciary is partial, but that is the law.
But what about, I'm talking about, I'm not saying maybe a stipulated price or a stipulated amount for transporters, for business owners, but a regulation maybe between these amounts and this amount. Is that not possible?
Do you know that government did that many times in the past, especially even with foreign exchange? You understand? But Nigerians are clever at circumventing. That is the unfortunate thing. Government will humble you. Government will frustrate your life. I have been there before. So I know exactly what I'm talking about. No matter how good your intention. If you work with people who are just too self-centered, it is an Herculean task. As we are lifting it up, they are thinking in terms of their own, not in terms of the larger society. But when they talk outside, they will talk as if they are fighting for the larger society. They are the saboteurs who will run down to the president or the governor and say, please give me a contract of 5 billion. Oh. If you don't give me, I will make hell out of this because I'm your friend. You understand? That is the only reason they were crying. No matter what the masses lose because of that, they are not interested. So this is why I said that it is a problem of societal orientation. Now, I agree with you, there should be some form of law enforcement. That is Nigeria have laws. Our problem is there is no enforcement. You won't believe a friend was telling me yesterday, he got a court judgment to go and recover his property, which was wrongly taken by some people. The court gave the judgment and gave the order. He got to the police, who will go and execute because he can't go there himself. The police were telling him to go and bring 1.5 million. I said, for what? He said, for following him to go and do that, to go and enforce the law. Now, what type of country are we living? He said he was shouting, why? They said, don't you know the benefit of enforcing it for you?
And we see this happen a lot.
Yes.
Especially where the police force would come out to say, oh, we have to fill our vehicle, we have to pay for it.
That's
We also have to
the
sort out our logistics. Now, how do we think, should this be an issue of the government intervening massively, or the private sector should also put in their resources into this aspect in terms of funding, maybe CSR for our security agencies? Should we start talking about that, or is it a sole responsibility of the government now?
You see, there are two ways to it. The larger burden is on government. The rest is on the citizens themselves. Just like what is happening in South Africa, even though their own reasons is more clandestine. Now what is called citizens enforcement. Yes, you can picket a station that is jacking up prices or what do they call it? Ordering products. But how many citizens are ready to do that? That is one. Although I agree, government has the major responsibility of enforcement of law. Yes, and we need a strong man like that. And without some heads rolling, it will happen. If you are the chief security officer of your state, and some law enforcement people are, fire them immediately. By the time 2 or 3 people lose their jobs, the others will get the message.
But is that not the way to go, especially when we talk about having a good and stable economy? Of course, there will be people that will be affected.
Yes.
People will definitely be punished for their wrongdoings.
Yes.
But it feels like sometimes our government wants to, they tend to look away from this part, or they do not want to offend some certain people. But how do we now make sure or ensure that we grow as we should in Nigeria?
Although there are some exceptions, I may not agree that any reasonable government will look away from making impact. No. I think what normally happens is that when somebody tried to make an impact and he saw a lot of obstacles, that's why when people are out of government or before they get into offices, they talk beautifully. But when they get into that stance, you will start wondering, is it not the same person that was talking as if he has the magic wand? Because reality will now dawn on him. You understand that, look, it is not as easy as you are saying it. If you want to work, you have to work with people. And once those people decide to frustrate you, once you have an organization, you are the head there. The workers can make life terrible for you. Yes, those are some of the issues that people forgot. You understand that? The same thing with the government. In government, you're not it might be the president, but your presidency is a collection of structures, beginning from your own cabinet to the assembly members or the honorable member, the state, and everybody. And you must balance their interests too with the interest of the masses. Because those are the people who will even let your will of progress move. If you are too focused on even the masses and those people feel neglected, you will end up becoming an enemy of the masses that you thought you want to sacrifice, because the masses will not even see your sacrifice. You understand what I'm saying? They won't allow them to see it. They will paint you blue and black that you are their enemy. And the masses will believe because they are suffering. They won't see your sacrifice. They won't see it. All people want to see is that, things are free now, things are better now. I can now go out and pick bread on the street. That's what people want to hear. And is that possible anywhere in the world? The only place that it is possible and they are doing it, it is not through government this thing. It is God's willing. How? Natural resources. Go to the Kuwaitis and the Qataris. They have more than enough money.
Do you think we do not have? We're talking
And
about
Nigeria has gone through that part before too. We were in excess money in those days, in the 70s. But do you know what? Like I said, we didn't focus.
Are you saying we do not have excess money right now, or we are just wasting a lot of our resources?
I'll tell you this, we don't. We just have enough money. No, we just have some money. Let me put it that way. We don't. Because if you have excess money, it's like somebody who is trying to eat. No matter how large your mouth is, once the food is plenty, as we are stuffing the food, some will be falling down. Nothing is falling down to the masses because it is not even enough. So we don't have enough money.
Are you sure it is not enough, or we are not managing our resources as adequately?
I'll tell you this. Nigeria is one of the big economies in the world. Still yet, it's not as industrialized or as developed as South Africa. South Africa is a small state. You understand? That is why when you are talking of wealth, you don't talk of absolute wealth, you talk of per capita relative to the population. Because your income is attached to your responsibilities. Somebody with 9 children is different from somebody with 2 children, having the same salary. People have forgotten all those. What's your responsibilities? You know Nigeria is bad when you are contributing to the problem like by having 9 children. Yes. These are the economic issues that people refuses to bring into their life. Because that has been the pattern in the past. That has been the mindset of people. You bring in children you cannot educate, you cannot cater for, and expect Nigeria to feed you and that large number of children. Why? For what purpose? These are the collective, the cumulative individual issues that now translate to the national issue.
Doctor, to some extent, I might agree with you, but to another extent, I might just want to say, why not let us leave it to family, that issue to the family unit. But looking it beyond that, the issue of economy now, we cannot but also look at other sectors in the nation that are not working well. And we will not push this on the citizens. In terms of the healthcare, we talk about how porous our healthcare is still today. With education, we talk about there are some schools in Nigeria today who do not have seats. Children sit on the floor. When we go to the north, we see this. When we go to some of these states in North Central, we see these dilapidated school buildings.
All those points you are raising.
These are still part of what equates to some of our economic issues we have today. And we cannot exempt the government and take it to the family units.
You know what? If we talk from now till eternity, it will still be the same thing.
Why is that so?
Because that is not it's not that is our problem. We've been talking since independence.
So what is our problem?
Orientation.
Orientation
I'm coming. I will tell you why. Rwanda changed overnight because of orientation. It is not because of talks that Nigerians are used to. You know, when you talk of that of there is no hospital, there is no this thing, would there be in an economy that is struggling or that is comatose? No. I'll give an example that might look to some people that what is he talking about? That an individual, maybe a messenger, has 9 children. And is now cursing Nigeria instead of cursing himself. That what type of life is this? No, the same thing happen. If government provides services, I'm serious. True talk is not cheap. It's not cheap. It's not palatable. A lot of people would think this man is cold-hearted. But that is the truth of the matter. You want to export your own problem to the larger society by your recklessness and your... In those days, when our fathers, grandfathers have plenty of children, life was good because all of those children will be sent to the farm to be productive. Is that what is happening now? All these children you are having now, you don't even want them to walk to school. You have to carry them. We used to walk to school. Yes. These are the things people refuses to address. In those days, having a larger number of children is more hands. So you understand?
But doctor, even if they have a huge family unit,
yes,
does that mean people should not be entitled to a good medical facility?
They should
does
be
that
entitled.
mean they should not be entitled to education?
I'm not telling you this. They should be entitled to if they can also be productive. Because I'll tell you this, there is no free manna. Even in the church, in religious houses. Yes, that is the bitter truth. If you want to be entitled to certain things from Nigerian state, so you understand, you must be productive to Nigerian state, not parasitic. A lot of people are parasitic. You understand? And as long as God himself that created the world did not make everybody equal, no president, no human being can make everybody equal. It is not possible. But that is not to say that I'm saying that people should continue to suffer. No. All I'm saying is that it is not that one will suffer from the beginning to the end of his life if you are serious. Some people will suffer as a young person, but in their middle ages, they will forget all those suffering because life has changed. Some it is old age that they will become to enjoy life. So it's like a spoke, a wheel. The way the world runs is that while some people are enjoying, some people have to suffer. While some people are suffering, some people have to enjoy. That is how it is. That's how God made all these things. Therefore, it is not equal. Some people have to suffer for some people's enjoyment. That is the reality. But you see, all of us just want dreams, utopia and stuffs. You understand now? If you have it that type, okay, no matter how bad Nigeria is, I'm going to make it myself. And you are struggling. That is how to improve your own life and improve the nation too. If everybody keep on struggling, no matter what. But look, I must make an impact, no matter how bad Nigeria is. Nigerians go to South Africa, you understand? And they are making it. Why? Job that they will refuse to do here. They are doing it there. Even with degrees. Here now you'll be feeling funky and saying me selling biscuit on the road. They call it special subs there. What I'm telling you all this is that it's our orientation, our society that is largely killing us. All I'm saying is that government has a responsibility, fine, and they are not meeting up that responsibility. That is a major problem. But the populace can't change the direction. Thank you. Of government itself. If you don't have a good leader, then be good followers. How? Force the government to do the right thing. People can say it is not possible. It is possible. It is because that suffering has not got to the point.
How can the people force the government to do the right thing?
By being truthful themselves. I've said it many times. Can we, as individuals, examine your conscience, all of us, including me? We are all opportunists. At every moment, other people can go to, it sounds like it is you that is going to benefit personally. That is the reality. Outside the world talk beautifully, excuse me, we will argue beautifully. But when we close the door, that is not what we are doing. But if we think we are deceiving the other people, are we deceiving God?
All right, let's take a moment. We'll be right back. Please stay with us.
In today's fast-paced world, staying ahead demands peak performance from our bodies.
Like never before, our bodies need an optimum supply of essential nutrients, and Supermalt supports our daily nutritional needs.
Supermalt has 20 essential vitamins, minerals, and natural extracts for overall health and wellness. One Supermalt a day gives you energy and vitality, improves your mental performance, and supports your immunity. When malaria knocks you down, you can be sure parasites are having a party in your system.
Welcome to our new kingdom, guys!
Comel, an effective weapon against malaria. Attacking the parasite
parasite army directly to give you express relief and get you back on your feet effectively. Chrome out on malaria gone.
All right, thank you very much for staying with us. Yes, we're still talking about IPMAN's warning on rising petrol importation and higher prices. We still have Dr. Adekunle Onile, an economist, in the studio with us, who's been talking about the issue and, of course, the warning. But beyond that, we've spoken so much about economy and, of course, the impact of the removal of fuel subsidy, the impact of the gradual rise in cost of fuel, and of course the impact on Nigerians generally. But as we begin to wrap up this morning, Doctor, the licenses initially were granted primarily because Nigeria's local refining capacity was insufficient for many years to meet domestic demand. Also, it was also to they were intended to ensure uninterrupted fuel supply and prevent shortages, and they were also expected to promote competition in the downstream sector so that no single refinery or supplier would dominate the market and dictate prices. Are we seeing that happening?
Good. This last wrap-up, I've vindicated all I've said. That the problem is not government entirely. How? Now, we used to have government-run refineries, only about 3. People are saying because government did not run it very well, they did not do well, and that is insufficient for the country, given our growing population. So government has ceded to that. They did their part. Now, when government established refineries during the government run days, a lot of the people who work there in Nigeria, what did they do? They ran down the chop the refinery.
Was it because there was no proper regulation?
The regulation were there. Who will carry out the regulation? Are the police and the DSS and immigrants, everybody? They're not Nigerians. You see, our problem is now becoming like South Africa, where South Africans are facing Nigerians or foreigners, instead of facing their government that is allowing illegality. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say now. Forgetting that the immigration people who allow foreigners in are South Africans. They don't blame those ones again. So where I'm going is that we should be focused on what our real problem is. And let me say this, I say to all Nigerians, presently, the percentage of increase in fuel cost is not and should not be allowed to be propagandized into a situation where profiteers, market people, saboteurs, use it against us, the people. And that's what they are doing.
But how can we ensure that doesn't happen? Because for every slight increase we see, you go to the market today, an average tomato seller will tell you, oh, the fuel has increased.
That is it.
How do we ensure? And this is also to talk about regulation. Our time is fast spent. The issue of regulation and enforcement we talked about. But briefly, Doctor, in 30 seconds before we go, how do we ensure this doesn't continue to happen?
You see, we have to have government that is very firm. This government is saying that they are very focused, but not yet firm, to the best of my knowledge.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Adekunle Onile, an economist who's been talking about IPMAN's warning on rising petrol importation and higher prices. Thank you so much, Doctor.
It's a pleasure always.
We'll be right back with our second guest. Please stay with us. All right, thank you very much for staying with us. Yes, we have our second guest to the studio this morning. He's a finance analyst, Elder Sonjo Akomu. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Talking about IPMAN's warning on rising petrol importation and higher prices, there's been a lot of debates. Is this for IPMAN's selfish interest? Is this for the good of Nigerians? Is this for the economy, for Nigeria as a whole? Given your assessment of this warning, what would you have to say about the current state of our fuel or petrol state, and of course, the refineries we have in Nigeria and IPMAN's contribution?
Well, thank you very much. Before I go into IPMAN and the warning, let me first of all lay this foundation about petroleum globally. The myths surrounding petroleum is associated with 3 C. C, control, conflict, and then what's the other one? I will remember that one. Corruption. That's a big monster. Those 3 C associated with petroleum is the cause of everything that is happening globally. When you talk of control, immediately after the First World War, when oil was discovered, leading to the Second World War, the discovery of oil changed the dynamics of warfare. And it was the desire of all those world powers as at then to source for this new energy. And the control of supply, the source of supply of this petroleum led to conflicts. International conflicts, inter-company conflicts, intra-company conflicts, intra-national conflicts. What I mean by that is that within Nigeria, there is conflict of interest between the northerners, the southerners, the component of Nigeria. That's international conflict. We have nations waging war. Most of the wars being fought now, especially the Strait of Hormuz, everything centered around oil, petroleum. So when you understand that background and the role that monster is playing, which is corruption, and that is the reason why every day, every time, petroleum, energy security is always a source of worry globally. Now, coming to IPMAN, I think for the first time, IPMAN is coming out to give us a warning because they have been at the receiving end of public indignation. They have always been at the receiving end. The marketers are wicked, the marketers are this, the marketers are that. And in order not to find themselves in that same situation again, they started, when you look at everything they raised in their warning, it's already happening, we're already seeing it. So, personally, I think the warning by IPMAN, we cannot say it is self-serving. We cannot say it is selfish. But I think it is in the overall best interest of Nigeria to actually look into it, interrogate exactly what is happening. Why should we now, immediately after the Dangote refinery was commissioned, we saw all the shenanigans, all the opposition, all the obstacles coming from the background that Nigeria had 4 refineries that some people up to today make sure that it will not work. Even one of our former head of state said it cannot work because this man knows the people behind it. It's a deliberate, intentional sabotage by Nigerians. So you can easily see why should somebody be contemplating massive licensing of importation. It is true that Dangote cannot supply all the Nigerian needs, but I think as a patriotic Nigeria, there is something in banking that they call moration, whereby you call bank directors, bank operators, and talk to them on government directive, on government policies, and their buy-in. There's nothing stopping Nigeria government and even stakeholders making sure that for some time, Dangote should just give us a period of time to service Nigerian interests. Within that window, government should now go back and encourage more investors in building refineries instead of banking or relying on importation. It is this importation of a thing that was out of control during the subsidy regime, when everybody started scrambling here and there to make sure that they get a license and then import oil. We are making a lot of. We are returning. We are slipping behind through the back door into that regime again by issuing licenses to people to go and import this fuel product. I think that is it should be a major concern for every Nigerian. It should be a major concern for all the National Assembly members. Everybody should rise up against it. If we want to bridge the gap between what Dangote is producing now and what Nigerians are consuming, NNPC, as the flagship of Nigerian petroleum sector, should be encouraged to bridge that gap instead of opening the door for as many people as possible. I think something is wrong somewhere there. Personally, I don't agree that everybody should just be given, and its impact or the consequence of doing that on the naira can not be. It's not imaginable.
Apart from even the value of the naira, what about the Nigeria's foreign exchange reserves? And these are concerns IPMAN raised, that it's going to affect our exchange rates, our foreign reserves.
You just reminded me of Joseph Stalin. He said, to destroy a country, first destroy its currency. And that is what is happening now. Deliberately destroying the currency to make it valueless. And we thought that by the coming up of Dangote, all the resources that were being used to import fuel, I think Nigeria will have saved that. And that one will have had impact on our foreign reserves and foreign exchange rates, because the importation has come down. The quest for foreign exchange also came down, which is supposed to show up the naira. I think the former minister did a lot in making sure that there is that stability. But the stability cannot just be as a result of a magic one. It is as a result of behavior. What we are doing in making sure that we are not importing more than we are exporting. So those are the intervening actions that was responsible. But I think caution now have been thrown to the wind. We have gone back to the era of importation, which I consider I don't think is good.
Now, talking of the importation now, the figure, it says Nigeria's petrol importation jumped 207% in June 2026 to 18.1 million liters per day, even as domestic supply fell 22% to 32.5 liters per day. Now, looking at that percentage, 207%, is that not so much for a country who has 4 major refineries? We also have a private refinery, and we are still importing that much fuel into the country.
I would describe it as criminal and unpatriotic. those people who are involved in that, anybody that is associated with that jump, that astronomical jump, they are the enemies of these countries. And they should be viewed as such. Every Nigerian should see them and even rain curses upon them. Because that is where we thought we have said bye-bye to. Immediately, the president removed subsidy. We thought we are done with that. But, Nigerians, especially the moment election is coming like this, a lot of things like this will come up. And I'm very, very sad that some people succumbed to those who proposed those importations. Because I don't see any need for it. If Dangote is unable to satisfy our daily consumption, our local consumptions, I don't think it should go to the extent of throwing open the windows, the gates for everybody to go and bring in. And we have seen people, there is this allegation that a lot of people now buy cheap from Dangote and then take it outside Nigeria to go and sell. Those are criminal things. Those are economic sabotage. And I don't know why we are like this. But I think it shouldn't be a political expedient approach to appeal to some people to make them happy just because election is coming.
Should we now begin to talk about government policies now? Maybe we should start talking about enforcement and some policies should be put in place to make sure that saboteurs like these are brought to book, or seeing how we should reduce or even stop the act, like you have said.
When I started, I talked about the 3C and the monster, the hydra-headed monster out of the three, which is corruption. Nigeria is not short of regulations. We are not short of laws. They are there. There was the name of this Nigerian midstream, downstream petroleum regulatory authority. What are they doing? In the first instance, are they not Nigerians? Do they have price? Of course, everybody will know. What we are seeing today, it means that regulatory authorities is a failure of regulatory authorities. What we are seeing now, and we cannot divorce it from corruption. An average Nigerian there given a position to protect national interests and protect Nigerian citizens. The moment the right price is paid, they are ready to compromise. And that is the result of why most regulations are violated inadvertently, deliberately, without any compulsion, and people still, because the tentacle is so wide, and it is always very difficult to actually pinpoint. But when you put somebody at the head of an agency or of an institution, and such a person is compromised, the remaining staff, the remaining workers, well, they will just fall in line. So personally, I believe that the regulatory authorities in Nigeria, they are not doing their job as they should. Yes.
Should we now start talking about putting timeline in place for ending importation of fuel in Nigeria? Because, I mean, and don't you also think when we start taking stricter measures like these, it will also make us serious in terms of making our own refineries function effectively?
I remember the story of a grandmother. The children went out and somebody gave them biscuits. And he was chiding the child. Don't you ever take biscuit from outside. Then somebody now said, Grandma, did you give this child biscuits? If you don't, wherever he finds biscuits, his colleagues are eating biscuits, he's going to take it. What I'm trying to say is that we have 4 refineries that are not working. The only one that is working, people are seriously working against it. Nigerians will find their ways to go and look for alternatives. And wherever they get it, that is where they will go. So instead of giving importation licenses, I think Nigerians investors, a lot of people have been, I know of at least 2 or 3 people. I think I remember one in Ogun State, I think one somewhere around Ogun State, who are given licenses for refinery. But many of them could not cope with the financial outlay. And as a result, the license is just kept in their cupboard. I think credit should be open to those people who want to. A lot of, we have heard that even the so-called behemoth Dangote secured government assistance in building his own restaurant, refinery. So instead of government giving people license to go and import, why don't we give them incentives, give them support, give them credit? And I suggested the other time, I was here, I've spoken on this thing before, that instead of giving individuals licenses, why don't we pair states, subnationals that are very close to each other? Lagos, Ogun, Oyo, Osun, Ondo, Ekiti. Give them license, let them source for fund, let them have their own regional refineries that they are going to manage to the benefit of their own people. I think that we put an end. Well, look at this country, Singapore. They don't have oil. Go and see the number of refineries. And Nigeria will go to those countries to go and bring refined product. What is wrong with us? There's no rocket sciences. It's just some critical thinking. We have the crude oil, and we are struggling to manage 4. And even the 4 was totally destroyed. And the only one that is working now, the man is in business. He cannot put all his eggs in a basket, but Nigerian government and Nigerian people can persuade him to give us a window when other people will come on board, so that if you produce and supply 30% here, 20% here, 20% there, the remaining 70%, you can sell to international market and make your money in the long run. I think that is more reasonable than throwing the gates open. Give everybody license. 207% increase. It is insane.
Now, between a private refinery or between private refineries and the government-owned refineries, which do you think would help our economy better in Nigeria?
Between government
refineries and private refineries?
I don't think we should be discussing.
Or should it be a joint venture, a joint collaboration?
We have seen government refineries and we have seen the situation, the conditions now.
No, I am talking about instances where our government are standing up to the task. They are owning up to their mistakes and they are saying, oh, we want these moribund refineries to come to life. How should they eventually move on from there?
I think somebody who has inside knowledge, somebody who has seen it all, like a former head of state, to come out and declare that those refineries will not work. And apart from that, technology is advancing. Those refineries are behind civilization. Just like I suggested, if government want to come into that, subnational government should be encouraged to go into that. If subnational government, we have 36 states, pair them in 3. How many will that give us? That would be around 15. If Nigeria has 15 refineries, and the refinery in Oyo, and Lagos will take care of people in this place, they will manage it for the benefit of their own people. The surplus can be sold elsewhere and make money for that, for those states. If some people will not go and sabotage it again, because everything we are facing today is the handwork of unpatriotic, devilish Nigerians. But that is where leadership comes. until we have a benevolent, what is called, you can have it in a democracy, benevolent dictator, somebody who will be upright, somebody who is not going to bend to pressure, somebody who has the fear of God. Lee Kuan Yew ruled Singapore for 30 years with iron hand. Those that can